If there are seats available next to you, would you please raise your hand? No, those can't. Thank you. All right, please take a seat. Maximum capacity. The special meeting of the Albany City Council for Wednesday, March 5th will please come to order. And you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Councilmember Atkinson.
Present.
Councilmember Barnes.
Present.
Councilmember Moss.
Present.
Vice Mayor Weil.
Here.
Mayor Thompson.
Here. Next item, please.
Public hearing, consideration of an appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of the UC Village mixed-use project, including action on 1, amendments to planned unit development approval, and 2, modifications to tentative map and design review applications. Staff recommendation that the City Council affirm the decision of Planning and Zoning Commission with modifications. Approve resolution number 2014-21 denying the appeal of Albany Housing Advocates and Amber Woodson, and number 2014-22 denying the appeal of Ed Fields and affirming the decision of Planning and Zoning Commission with modifications. Approve resolution number 2014-23 amending planned unit development for the University Village mixed-use development project. Approve resolution number 2014-24, 2014-25, and 2014-26, approving tentative parcel map applications for the University Village mixed-use development project. And approve resolution number 2014-27, 2014-28, 2014-29, approving design review applications for the University Village mixed-use development project.
Staff, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. What I'd like to do is give you a brief overview of the project. Beginning in July of 2012, the City Council approved a series of policy-level actions associated with the University Village mixed-use project. At that time, you approved an environmental impact report, zoning map amendments, zoning text amendments, a planned unit development, and a density bonus. In 2012, those City Council approvals established the policy framework for development of a grocery store of, at that time, approximately 55,000 square feet on the north side of Monroe, and a mixed-use development on the southern parcel, which included approximately 30,000 square feet of retail space facing San Pablo Avenue and 175 units of independent and assisted senior housing with an entrance off of 10th Street. Following the 2012 approvals, the university turned over the process to their development teams. The retail team is Oppidan Development. Their proposed project is smaller scale with approximately 27,000 square foot Sprouts grocery store, 4,500 square foot corner retail, and 13,000 square feet of retail on Monroe Street. For the senior housing project, the developer is Belmont Village. And then for most, but not all of the common areas, that will remain in with the University of California and under an agreement between the two developers in the university. In addition to the reduction in the size of the retail portion of the project, other changes to the project since 2012 include reorientation of the retail space from San Pablo Avenue frontage to Monroe Street. And So the reorientation of the retail from the ancillary retail from an orientation facing San Pablo Avenue to Monroe Street. The orientation of the grocery store has changed, now facing Monroe Street with surface parking. And the main entry into the senior housing project has moved from 10th Street on the west side of the project to San Pablo Avenue. Beginning in 2013, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a series of meetings on the project. Ultimately, in December of 2013, the commission approved the project on a 4-0 vote. 2 separate appeals of the Planning and Zoning Commission action have been filed. The first appeal has been filed by Albany Housing Advocates and Amber Whitson. The second appeal has been filed by Albany resident Ed Fields. The action before the City Council this evening is consideration of these appeals. The City Council's review this evening is considered a de novo hearing, which means that the Council may take a fresh look at all the issues presented and is free to come to a different conclusion without having to find that the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision was unreasonable. A series of resolutions has been drafted to form the basis of the actions that would be required by the City Council, if you wish, to deny the appeals and approve the project applications. As a part of this package, modifications to planned unit development, tentative map, and design review resolutions have been prepared and have been part of your staff report materials. I'll go through the resolutions just very briefly, just to kind of give you an overview of their intent. First, the resolution 2014-21 would deny the appeal of the Albany Housing Advocates and Amber Whitson. Resolution 22 would deny the appeal of Ed Fields. Resolution 23 would amend the planned unit development that was originally approved in 2012. And then the remaining 6 resolutions, the first 3, 24, 25, and 26, are approvals of the tentative parcel map, and that basically creates the parcels that right now are part of the larger University of California property. And then the final 3, numbers 27, 28, and 29, approve the design of the buildings, the design review applications, which is the architectural appearance of the buildings. Next, I'd like to summarize just very briefly the issues raised in the appeals, and then you will have an opportunity to hear from the appellants themselves in a few moments. And I'm not going to read all this on the screen. I'm just going to kind of highlight the main issues that have been raised, and of course can come back to this with questions if you wish. The Albany Housing Advocates Amber Whitson appeal is based on the grounds that the city did not have a housing element that substantially complied with state law, and therefore the commission could not make the consistency findings regarding the general plan. As you know, on Monday, March 3rd, the City Council approved a housing element, and therefore the assertion that the city lacks a valid housing element is no longer germane. Revised findings to reflect the March 3rd action are proposed for this evening's consideration. The Ed Fields appeal is based on a series of issues with respect to compliance with city requirements. To address these issues, in some cases, the applications have been supplemented with additional materials. In other cases, findings or conditions of approval have been augmented in the draft resolutions. In addition, we're recommending, as I mentioned, some revisions to the planned unit development that was approved in 2012. The details of the appeal and staff response to them are in the staff report. I'll just briefly go over the issues that were raised. As with the first appeal, there was a concern about the city lacking a valid housing element. The second issue was with dates of submittal and revisions of plans. Third issue, the tentative map does not meet parkland dedication requirements. Fourth issue, tentative map is incomplete. The fifth is the project does not conform to PUD approvals. Sixth is project does not conform with private or common open space requirements. Seventh is the project is inconsistent with planning and zoning code due to off-street parking occupying the building frontage. 8, the project is inconsistent with design review requirements. 9, the project lacks an affordable housing agreement. 10, the project is inconsistent with general plan, tree preservation, and creek conservation policies. 11 conditions should have been modified to include Ohlone Native American monitoring during construction. And then finally, the 12th approval is invalid because completed applications not received and fees not paid by the time of approval. In the interest of time, I'm not going to respond to all those now, but again, we're available to respond. On my left is Todd Williams, who is our outside legal counsel on this project, and he and I and my colleagues will be able to, we believe, answer any of your questions. In closing, since preparation of the documents in the packet, we've received some feedback, both of substantive nature as well as some typographical errors that have been pointed out to us. We have for you on the dais this evening one substantive change to Resolution 22 that I'd like to call out, and then perhaps later on towards the end of the evening we can go through some of the typographical errors that should be clarified. With respect to item Resolution 22, in Mr. Fields' appeal, I should say following Mr. Fields' filing of the appeal, he forwarded to the City Council some correspondence that he had provided earlier to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Although not formally part of the appeal, this correspondence is part of the record. And thus, in the abundance of caution, we've distributed to you amendments to Resolution 22 to provide additional explanation and information to respond to some of those issues raised in the earlier correspondence. Thus, the second attachment is a new attachment. That's with you on the dais. It's also, I believe now it's posted on the web, and it's also at the back of the room in the binders for public review. So with that, I think I will pause and be happy to answer any questions now or later on in the hearing if you wish.
Does council have any questions for now for staff? Okay. So I'm soon going to open the public hearing. I want to remind everybody that this is a quasi-judicial process. My expectation is that you will respect the process and that you will respect every other person in the room. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to give each appeal 5 minutes. And then if the applicant wishes to have 5 minutes, the applicant will also have 5 minutes, the applicants. And then every other person will have 1 minute. So, okay. So with that, we will start with the first appeal. And that would be, let's see. Albany Housing Advocates and Amber Whitson. So, you're speaking. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Collins. I'm an attorney at the Public Interest Law Project, and I represent the Affordable Housing Advocates and Amber Whitson. I've read the resolution and the decision, and I have a question with regard to an ambiguity that exists. The staff report recommended amending the findings of the Planning and Zoning Commission that were made on December 11th. The attachment A to the resolution provides that the city can make findings of consistency based on the adoption of the March 3rd housing element. But at the end of that attachment A, it says, no changes to the resolution findings or to the conditions of approval. So it's not entirely clear to us whether or not the council staff is recommending that council amend the resolution findings that were made by the Planning and Zoning Commission. To the extent that it does, then I think that with the adoption of the housing element, that probably would satisfy the requirement. To the extent that it doesn't, I think that the resolution that was adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 11th was technically void at the moment when it was adopted because there wasn't a general plan in place at that time. So resolving the appeal by saying you can change the findings, but then not changing the findings doesn't really resolve that issue, that the resolution was void when it was made. if that's the case, then it could be that the approval of the tentative map and of the other parts of that process on December 11th haven't really been approved if the resolution is void. So that's my question.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we will answer all questions when we come back to council.
Okay.
So if you have other things you want to say, I'd like you to keep
No,
going.
I just wanted to say that the purpose of having the resolution and the findings is not just to have a piece of paper that says you found it to be consistent with your general plan. Because the general plan is your constitution for development for all purposes, the consistency doctrine actually expects that you would go through your plan and make sure that the project you're approving is consistent with that plan. So what we would ask is that, we do appreciate that the council has adopted a housing element. What we would think would be a wise action to do is to go back and actually compare that housing element to the general plan that you now have and make sure that it's consistent. Because it's more than just the piece of paper, it's the actual analysis of consistency. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And now we'll hear the appeal from Ed Fields.
Mayor Thompson, I got an email from Jeff Bond today telling me that I had only 5 minutes, and I responded that I could try to do it in under 10, and I did not receive any email back. I could only do half of my appeal in 5 minutes.
Well, do your 5 minutes, and then we'll see where we are.
And this is not even part of my appeal. Before I begin, I've requested that one of the council members recuse himself based on written comments to me which indicate both prejudice and that he's already made up his mind about this appeal. If he chooses not to recuse himself, then I would like to submit the emails as part of the record. Secondly, I'd like to request that each member of the council inform the public which members of staff or the development teams you've spoken with about my appeal, and specifically whether the city manager, community development director, planner, or city attorney has briefed you or provided you any information orally or in writing about this appeal other than the documents provided to the public as part of this agenda. If so, would you please disclose that? Okay. Mayor Thompson, members of the council. I saw this banner last August in Richmond. Idle No More is an Indigenous people's mass movement based in Canada, which seeks to protect their lands and waters from corporate destruction. My comments this evening supplement the written comments I have previously provided to the council. These are photos of some of the trees at the project location. This is the list of trees which will be removed to accommodate the retail development. The 3 oak trees to be relocated are the smallest. This shows the project site. More than 50% of the Sprouts Market would be on land that was part of the UC experiment station. In 2003, LSA Associates, who prepared the EIR for this current report, described the entire project area as the Gill Tract. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved a finding that all of the references to tree preservation in the general plan relate to a stand of pines which has been removed. Here is one reference from the general plan. This applies to new development. The current plans do not show the preservation or relocation of mature heritage and endangered trees. These are the greenhouses and laboratories which the university destroyed in 2009. The mitigation was to document them with photographs. And this is what they looked like afterward. People in other locales restore greenhouses. These are part of a larger urban agriculture project, as you can see on the right. Parkland dedication is required as a condition of approval of a tentative subdivision map or parcel map. The code states that this should be done based on a report and recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Commission to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Can the City Council preempt this requirement and the public input and review which go with it. The tentative map does not meet the parkland dedication requirement. And if the open space along Cordonices Creek were to satisfy the requirement for parkland dedication, then it can hardly be considered in the PUD as an exceptional level of amenity or other benefit to the community that otherwise would not be provided. These are two separate requirements. Also, this easement was already provided for in the Creek Restoration MOU of August 2004. The area is part of the Creek Restoration right-of-way and could not have been built upon. A PUD is a binding agreement in exchange for flexibility and exceptions to our code, such as the ability to build higher and denser in one project, in one area of the project. The developer agrees to provide increased open space, which could not be achieved without the exceptions. In the PUD, the applicant agrees to provide 31,000 square feet of open space along Cordonices Creek. This is the current PUD. The authors of this appear to have misunderstood what I wrote. The building was set back to provide the additional open space. I am appealing the Commission's approval of a reduction in the amount of open space along the creek. The original PUD resolution was based on development plans submitted in April 2011 and supplemented by the applicant in later presentations. These later presentations increased the open space along Cordonices Creek to 31,000 square feet. In December, the Commission approved a reduction in the open space along the creek to less than 25,000 square feet by allowing the space along 10th Street, including a required stormwater treatment area, to meet the parkland dedication requirement. That reduction, which is before the council now, does not conform to the PUD. Which regulatory requirements caused the project to be refined to reduce the commitment in the PUD of 31,000 square feet of open space along Cordonices Creek? Have UC or the developers filed an application for a modification to the PUD? That's how the code specifies modifications should be made. You should not consider an amendment to the PUD without an application.
Okay, stop for just a minute. Now, I'm inclined to let you continue, but I have to get the permission from the rest of the council. Are you willing to let him go for 5 minutes?
It'd be less than 5 minutes, I can assure you. This is how the code specifies modifications should be made. You should not consider an amendment to the PUD without an application. According to the code, this needs to be treated as a new application and should go before the Planning and Zoning Commission. Resolution 2014-29 contains 4 findings. How are these findings established in the 2 PUD resolutions? I can find no reference to these items in the PUD. This is the code definition of usable open space, and a sentence below from a resolution before you this evening. And these are the requirements. Notice the purpose: to fulfill needs for outdoor leisure and recreation, to preserve valuable natural resources, and to improve the quality of residential living. Here is staff's suggestion for how to work around the requirement. My interpretation: if we define outdoor open space as recreation space, then we can call indoor space recreation space. Here's the resolution approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is from the resolution before you this evening. The project does not conform with private or common open space requirements. This would set a precedent for other projects that indoor open space can be counted toward an outdoor open space requirement. Residents of an assisted living facility with limited mobility should be provided at least the minimum required of outdoor open space, which they can access easily. This is equally true for dementia care residents who will need fully enclosed outdoor open space. If the PUD is going to be modified and the open space easement used to meet the requirement of the project, exceptional amenities or other benefits to the community in the form of affordable housing should be considered. In the last 12 years, only 4 affordable units have been constructed in Albany. This project does not provide any affordable units. In my opinion, the reason has little to do with court decisions. It stems from the insistence by the developers that they not provide any inclusionary housing and the city's refusal to object to that. Ground floor building frontage along San Pablo Avenue is reserved for commercial activity. This is from the Commission Resolution 2013-10, and it's repeated in your resolution approving design review. The amended PUD before you does not waive that requirement. What does this say about future development of commercial retail on San Pablo Avenue in Albany? Members of the council, these are some of the reasons why you should reverse the action of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The city should follow the proper procedures for parkland dedication and for modifying the PUD, and you should not approve the resolutions before you this evening. City staff has prepared hundreds of pages of new and revised documents for your approval tonight. I hope there is something that you might question or want to discuss before approving them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. These proceedings are quasi-judicial, and you need to act in accordance with that. If you wish to show your appreciation, you may do so silently. Yes, yes, this is fine, but not verbally and not clapping. Thank you. No, not now. No responses until after we come back to council. Okay, it's now time, if either applicant would like to speak, you're entitled to that 5 minutes. No, okay. All right, then we will ask the clerk to read the first 10 names of those who in the audience who would like to speak, and you will each have up to 1 minute. And please, excuse me, please line up against the wall so that we can be as efficient as possible and hear as many people as possible.
For those who haven't filled out one yet, please fill out one and come towards the back of the person and bring them into me.
Each speaker has 1 minute. Each speaker has 1 minute.
Each speaker has 1
Each
minute.
speaker has 1 minute.
1 minute, yes. We've made
Okay.
that very clear.
Ann Duncan and Phyllis Bishop, Kayana Jones, San Joy, Arya, and I have somebody by the initial of J. Shelton, Jacqueline Armstrong, and John Huffman.
Go ahead, please.
My name is Ann Duncan. I wrote this in anticipation of 3 minutes, so I'll try to cut it short. I recently moved to Albany from Los Angeles, and I have been looking around for some place when I no longer can take care of myself. And currently, there are no such options in Albany. I really like Albany. I like its family orientation and its small town feel. And I have visited Belmont in Los Angeles, West Los Angeles, connected with UCLA. I have friends there. I highly am enthusiastic about it coming here. And I could tell you all kinds of other things, but I gather my time is limited. And I just hope that you approve this project.
Thank you very much. Could we take the
Yeah,
bell
I'm
off her 30 seconds? I think that is distracting people.
Good evening. My name is Phyllis Bischoff, and I speak in strong support of approval for the University Village mixed-use project. It's a place where I would very, very much like to live. At present, no options like this exist in Albany, and seniors have to move away to find quality senior living and leave their families and their friends, uproot their lives. This would allow people to stay engaged and connected through classes, seminars, events. I worked at Cal for 35 years. I managed the African collections in the library. And in the 9 years since I retired at age 71, lifelong learning has been my lifeline. And I like this place, what I know of it, because I could continue that. And it's all the more important because in the forthcoming budget, the state budget, I understand the governor and others are cutting funds for lifelong learning. They're for everybody, but job training and people with disabilities. Adult education will be no more. And so that's it. I beg you to say yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kiana Jones. I just wanted to say that the Guild Tract is for farming, and that if a community of dedicated people are farming there and like we're able to produce tons of food to give to the local community, that's a beautiful thing. And community gardens and urban farms are the future, and that the city of Albany would be making a big mistake if they paved over that fertile soil and destroyed that community. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hi, I'm Jenna. I'm a student from Cal, and I'm in support of the urban garden. I think that the urban garden would give people an opportunity to know where their food comes from. It's so essential that people know that. And so often people forget that somebody worked for their food because they're surrounded by four walls that is a grocery store that's lined with produce and processed foods. And Sprouts, it really is no different. It's still a grocery store. And I really think that the garden is community building, it's health building, it's knowledge building, and my generation needs a more direct connection to food and know where their food comes from, and I think that this urban garden will give them that opportunity. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zan Joy, and I have a question. I want to know, who has been inside a Sprout Market here? Who has actually gone inside a Sprout Market? Okay, so you know Sprout is like Whole Foods on designer drugs. There's hardly any real food in that, and there's so much packaging, so much ritzy kind of food. It's a poor, poor choice. I think the people in El Paso are fooled by Sprouts, but us here, we're not fooled by Sprouts. We know food, and we have a lot of it, access to it around here. So that it's unconscionable, I think, that you would even think to put a grocery store like Sprouts on land where I don't have to talk about the condition of food in our country, and we're having a drought here. People in communities all over our country are looking for places to grow food, rooftops, medians, everywhere to grow food. And here we have a beautiful lot here to grow food.
You need to finish.
Okay, so I'm begging you, take your somewhere else. It can grow somewhere else and not on this land here.
Thank you.
I'm in support of the appeal, and I'm going to speak as if the City Council ostensibly is interested in the public good and the common good. And I am most interested in the public good here being public education. And so I'm less concerned about specific issues of the appeal, including the amount of open space, and more interested in the substantive political implications of zoning decision as such. And so, in my view, to zone this space for commercial development makes the Albany City Council complicit with the strategy of privatizing the University of California, Berkeley. It's no secret that the university has been and is undergoing a process of privatization. This process of privatization, however, as you know well, has not gone uncontested. Indeed, we have seen numerous social movements in this country, not only in Berkeley, over the past couple of years, now increasingly contesting privatization, not only of higher education, but in many spheres. So what I want to make here is 2 quick points. First, that privatizing higher education, it tends to degrade democracy. And second, that the City Council has an important political decision to make through this concrete zoning decision.
Thank you.
Can I make
One more statement.
Okay, so the 2 ways in which higher education is degraded through privatization is that it tends to make high-quality knowledge inaccessible to the common person via higher tuition.
Okay, you need to finish up now.
Okay. So finally, some may protest that it's in Albany's interest to facilitate the privatization scheme here because it brings tax revenue to the city. I think the tax revenue is rather insignificant.
You need to stop now.
No.
Okay, last sentence. In any case, if tax revenue per se is what the city is interested in, then raising marginal tax rates on high-income earners and properties would be a much more democratic way to raise funds than paving over land suitable for agriculture research and extension.
Thank you.
Greetings to the council and everyone here. My name is Jacqueline Armstrong. I'm 79 years old. I've lived here in this city all my life, and I was looking forward to someday a miracle of senior housing. Now, the Sprout store that you're speaking of, I've never been in one, but it seems to me they would have milk and the basic breads and fruits and vegetables that people that lived in the senior housing would have that where they could walk to. Most seniors don't have vehicles and have to walk.
To speak to council.
Speak to council. Oh,
Okay.
I'm speaking to everyone then. And so I'm just supporting something of that type in my senior years. I don't see many seniors here tonight. It's all you young people who haven't lived.
Speak to council.
Okay, anyway, that's why I'm here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Before the next group, can I have Evan Cross, Maureen Crawley, Joshua Arnold, Megan Laranaga. Thank you. A.P. Buharis, Russell Bates, Harry Chomsky, Henry Herrera. Line up, please.
Okay, the next person.
Go ahead, next person.
Hi, my name is John. I'm from Occupy the Farm, and I severely protest the idea that you, on your website, said we had 3 minutes to address 2 appeals, and now we're cut down to 1 minute. So the items I prepared, I don't have time to address. Instead, I'd like to read so you can understand more about Occupy the Farm, our principles of unity. We recognize the intrinsic relationship between diversity and excellence in all our endeavors. We affirm the dignity of all individuals and strive to uphold a just community in which discrimination and hate are not tolerated. We are committed to ensuring freedom of expression and dialogue that elicits the full spectrum of views held by our varied communities. We respect the differences as well as the commonalities that bring us together and call for civility and respect in our personal interactions. We believe that the active participation, okay, it seems like that I made a mistake and I was a little nervous, but the principles I just read are from the UC webpage about Berkeley, the principles of community.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
It might be a little out of order. My name is Joshua Arnold. Okay. My name is Josh. I'm a student at Cal and also will be there for the next 6 to 7 years as I do my PhD. That land there is a valuable place for research, and I'd urge the council and the mayor to think about the impact that you guys will have tonight, not just on Albany itself, but on California as a whole. Albany sits between two of the most food insecure places in California, Oakland, California, and Richmond, California. And the university's goal as a university is to perform research, specifically in agriculture, to address some of the problems that citizens in California are having. Sorry, I'm trying to get all this out in 1 minute. I would urge to think that we are not the only stakeholders in the room here that this is a big decision for. As a researcher for the next 6 to 7 years, I hope I can go on to do research on that land to help people all around California, and not just the people in Albany. I would also quickly add that urban farms and gardens actually increase property values, and there's a lot of external benefits to what's going on. So thank you for the 1 minute.
Thank you. And thank you to those of you who are listening.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Megan Laranaga, and I am speaking to you this evening as a UC Berkeley undergraduate student, a community member, and a school garden educator at an elementary school in El Cerrito. I'm please asking you to think about truly what the highest and best use for this land is, and that is your responsibility. I've also been a part of a greater, and I'm currently still part of a community visioning process for what the public really wants with this public resource that could best serve them. And a lot of people are going to talk to you, I believe, this evening about how great this land is and how vital it is for the UC students and for research, and it is. Hands-on experiential education is something that we're lacking, and speaking from personal experience, that is the most meaningful form of education and how we're going to take care of our land and feed ourselves. But I also ask you to please think about other people that I'm not seeing here, and that's children, as someone that educates children. And I can tell you that the experience of growing food is something that is so valuable and missed. And it makes a huge difference on health choices. So please, please also think about the kids when you're thinking about this land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen Crowley, Albany resident, trees continued. The cedars. In December, the landscape specified cedars 81, 82, 83 to be relocated. A couple of weeks later, most of the trees were tagged either red, destroy, or a few blue, relocate. I have photos of all 6 blue tagged trees. The 3 small oaks in the Sprouts area, the 3 cedars south. And now the new plans released to the public only last Friday afternoon, all the cedars are going to be destroyed. Where in the plans was the promised mature cedars to be planted? In the west storm water treatment area, along with the other trees from this conceptual palette shown in your current plans? In the storm drains? The oaks. The current plan shows only the 3 smallest oaks and other new trees, a shade garden, an understory, planting of the village creek banks, along with fully automatic drip hydrozones. This interference will destabilize the village creek banks and the roots of the few trees who have been saved. Why not plant them with the replacements along the wide open west side? Why not save more oaks, cork oaks, ash, elm, fern pine? A few healthy trees have mysteriously died recently, including cedar 84, oak 59, elm 54. They're all recommended for preservation, previous records. A couple individual trees. Number 14 is not unknown. It's a healthy Tilia linden tree.
You need to finish up.
I went from 5 minutes to 4 minutes to 3 minutes over 6 hours at home, and then I come here, you say 1 minute.
Finish.
There's no justification to destroy the Tilia number 14. Also, the healthy native California walnut tree northwest of the chain link fence must be protected. On your new plans, the tree protection fence doesn't protect the trees. It's inadequate, it's grossly inadequate. No documentation by the Tensor GeoGrid by the bike path next to Village Creek. All the street trees are to be destroyed. All of them, including the ones on Monroe. Previous report recommended preserving Albany's beautiful street trees, including the majestic, healthy chestnut trees. When walking down Monroe, looking south...
You need to finish up more.
Prison-like institution, 50 to 60 feet tall, approximately 275 feet long, with only a few small, narrow, not openable windows on the upper floors. No trees, no vegetation, nothing. Why can't you save these trees?
Okay.
As I keep saying,
You need to finish up, Maureen.
Anybody pays $7,000 to $10,000 a month to live in a 300 square foot room. $7,000 to $10,000. That's what they're charging. And my final quote you don't want to hear is from John Muir. Remember him? God has cared for these
Members of the jury, my name is Russell Bates. I'm a 40-year resident of Berkeley, a 67-year resident of the planet. Somebody asked me, what's that? I said, well, it's an arm. And there's a tattoo attached to this arm that says, Occupy the Gardens. Most people have one arm. Most people have one brain. Most people have one heart. You put them together, you add a spine, you can stand up to things that before you didn't realize you could stand up to. In Berkeley, the city council there took a stand against Homeland Security, said no to the Bearcat. Last night in Oakland, 149 people spoke up against the Domain Awareness Center, standing up against Homeland Security. Now, the equivalent in this situation will be, of course, UC Berkeley. Specifically the regents, specifically the people who think they have their thumb on you. So what you can do is what Berkeley did, what Oakland did last night. You can say no to this. It's insane to cover land with more buildings. We need the farm. When the infrastructure in this country starts breaking down,
you need to
and it
stop.
will, there's going to be a need to show people how to grow this in their own homes, in their own gardens.
You need to stop.
I will stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Gutierrez.
Could you
I'm
move your-
Professor Emeritus at UC Berkeley, professor in the graduate school, and head of a group called Center for Sustainable Agricultural Systems. I read my dean's letter to you with dismay and with some amusement. It explains to me quite clearly why he's a dean and I'm not. I also came to Giltrakt in 1964 as a graduate student. The number $1 trillion worldwide is lost to invasive species. In the United States alone, it's 140 billion per year. Giltrakt was designed to combat these kinds of problems. It was destroyed in 2008. All for the promise that the land could be sold for still more storefronts. Shame on you. Shame on you. We've given away
You
our
need to finish
legacy.
up. You need to finish up.
We've given away a legacy, and we get 5 and dimes. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Evan Cross, and I'm here to urge you.
Straighten it up. There you go.
Can I get my time reset since you interrupted me?
Will you please start his time over because I interrupted him. Thank you.
My name is Evan Cross, and I'm here to speak in opposition to any commercial development on the Giltrakt and to urge the city council members to preserve this land as historic farmland. I don't know if you guys have been out and seen how many urban farms there are around the East Bay, but we have a really special community here, and there's a lot of people who are working to be food secure and to work to grow food for themselves and their neighbors and their communities, and they need places to do it. And historic farmland is the perfect place to have a farm. And there's plenty of development, and I would also like to say that we're in a climate crisis, and this planet's running out of time, and urban farming and decentralization of food production is one way we can combat climate change. So I would like to support what a previous speaker said and urge you all to think about your children and your grandchildren and their children and 7 generations from now continued, and what you want to leave to them. Do you want to leave them a scabbed over piece of earth with pavement covering it and a store that may go out of business and remain empty like many other big box stores have?
Okay,
or do you want to
up.
leave them beautiful trees and historic farmland and the means by which to grow their own food through non-exploitative means?
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council and Mayor. I have an open letter from the Giltrakt Farm Coalition we'd like to provide each of you and members of the audience. I don't know the right way to do that. Should I?
No, not now. You need to use your time to speak to us.
Okay. We want to make just briefly 2 points that are explained in detail in this letter. One, we understand that your decision is going to be made within a narrow legal framework that has to do with your zoning codes, et cetera, et cetera. We support the appeal that Mr. Fields presented. The second point, however, is that we understand clearly that the ultimate resolution of this contest over the proper use of the Gill Tract will result from decisions by the current owner of the land, the Regents of the University of California. And in this regard, we know that we as citizens, stakeholders, and joint stewards of the land held in public trust by the university must make our arguments and appeals for an alternative development plan directly to the Regents through their representatives. The points that we wish to make to the Regents are outlined in the letter which I've submitted. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let me call the next group up, if you could line up. Sally Summer, David G., Jacqueline Hermes Fletcher, Signe Matson, Zach, Rob Stoker, Holly Beck, and Doug Donaldson.
Hi, I'm Harry Chomsky. I'm representing Albany Strollers and Rollers, and we've become strong supporters of this project. The developers met with us some time ago and discussed accommodations for bicycle and pedestrian access, and in their final plans, they've provided accommodations that we think are truly first-rate and remarkable. And they will enable people to use the retail facilities using their feet to get there, and also to connect different parts of Albany to each other using the paths that are provided. So we think that this project could provide a real vision of a future of the East Bay where people can do their shopping and get around without needing their private cars. I hope you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sally Summer, and I want to speak briefly to the so-called senior housing. I thought it was mainly assisted living, very high cost. The point is, for the people who are interested in living there, I just wonder if you really think it's better to have covered this agricultural land for living space, or move down the road a few blocks to a lot of empty commercial property in Albany, which could have been done just as easily. Also, the university and Albany are really bucking the trend in terms of what people are doing all over the world when they look toward climate change and to feed everybody with sufficient and nutritious food. The UN just put out a report. They said the future of food production is small pieces of property, small farms in urban areas.
Okay, thank you. Could you close the door, please?
Greetings, Council. My name is Holly Beck, and I'm a new resident to Albany with my 2 children. I live on Jackson Street. The Gill Tract is my view outside my living room and kitchen window. My daughter goes to school across the street from the Gill Tract. Urban farming would be an amazing educational tool for all of the children at Ocean View Elementary School and Albany Middle School. It would provide a tremendous amount of fresh produce to the villagers who live in the UC Village. I can't afford Sprouts, nor do I want to. I ride my bike to the farmer's market, and I have no problem going into El Cerrito to go to Trader Joe's when I need to. Furthermore, paving over the Gill Tract will provide ample amounts of runoff, water pollution. Keeping the farmland fertile soil will help to irrigate water down into our aquifers. We'll need less water treatment, and there'll be less pollution going directly into the bay.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lorax, and I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees because no one else really seems to want to speak for the trees. It seems that everyone on the city council seems to think that every single tree on the Gill Tract can be moved or cut down and mulched. And for anyone who's spent any time with trees, I find that really insulting. As I said, I'm speaking for the trees, I'm not really speaking for myself. So I wonder why the city council feels like this is such a hot idea. You know, why is it that so many trees can be found to be expendable? Why is it so many humans? How many times do we find ourselves underneath trees, and how many times do we find ourselves? I feel like each one of those trees are dreams that you're taking away from people, taking away from the children, and taking away from those creeks. They could have the deer.
Okay, you need to finish up.
Thank you. The deer, the geese, and all the other wildlife that could be in that land. You're taking those things away. Not for yourselves, but you're taking them away from the land itself.
Thank you. It'll stick right there? Oh, that's fine, as long as it'll stick right there. No, you need to do it so the council can see it, not so the audience can see it. It's for the council. Yeah.
Okay, so this map is a visual representation. I'd like to reference the map, but
All right, let's stop here. Let's take the map and put it on. Can you put it?
Back here?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Council. All right. Good evening. So yeah, it was only this last Sunday that we got to meet with the community and ask them what they see as an alternative to the Sprouts development plan. And we broke out into several groups considering education purposes, research purposes, food production purposes, remediation, ecological purposes, and we focused in those groups, and then we sent ambassadors from each group and cross-pollinated the ideas, and we haven't had much time, but this is the best that I could do to assimilate that. And these are also notes that I won't be able to reference in a minute, but the minute's up. Anyways, there's so much potential for research in terms of bioremediation and food production and education. It's such a rich resource, and it's really beautiful. It's not a parking lot. It's just pleasant. So
Okay. Thank you so much.
thank you for your consideration.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Rob Stoker. I'm a president of the Alameda County Building and Construction Trades Council. We represent 27 affiliated crafts, and we represent over 2,000 working men and women, many of whom have been out of work during this economic downturn. And contrary to popular belief, we do not believe in building at any expense. We think that this is a responsible development that's going to pay area standard wages, that'll give opportunities for local working men and women to work on a project that's within their community, and again, to reinvest millions of dollars in earned wages back into their community. We also like the ideas our baby boomer retirees age. It's one thing that comes up at union meetings throughout the area, and that's where are we going to go? Are there going to be places that we're going to be able to live and still stay within traveling distance of our families. So again, we believe that this is a responsible development. We look forward to getting working men and women back to work in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. You need to be respectful of all speakers.
Hi, I'm with the Industrial Workers of the World. We're also a union. We represent 15,000 workers. I'm opposed to this development. I think that with climate change, we need to have urban garden space and food security. I think it's really important that we localize all of our food production, especially with climate change. Also, I think this is a powerful opportunity to have green space as an alternative to the Albany bulb. I know that you're currently working to displace over 60 homeless people on the Albany bulb, and that's extremely offensive to the working class, and a lot of those people are workers. And, this could be the alternative green space that you want. Also, I just wanted to say, that union worker doesn't represent every union worker. I'm also a union worker and I'm opposed to this development.
Okay, thank you so much.
Donaldson, good evening. Mayor Thompson, members of the council. I'm chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. But I'm speaking for myself tonight. These are my words, not theirs. I want to say that the Planning and Zoning Commission worked very hard on processing these applications, and that it's important to note that we approved them without dissent. Our vote was unanimous. I think tonight you've had appeals for two reasons. The appeal relating to the housing element, I think, is now moot because the housing element has been now adopted. I'm sure that you will be able to make the findings that the appellant has suggested when she spoke earlier tonight. Ed Field's appeal raises a number of issues that he diligently raised at various planning and zoning meetings and hearings that we had. Some of them are quite technical, and others relate generally to questions of judgment regarding site planning and design review. Oh, I'm out of town. All right. Anyway. I urge you to deny the appeals, to uphold the Planning and Zoning Commission's determinations on this project, and I think that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next group, Karen H., Brian Parsley, Katie Calloway, Julie Walker, Kelly Jewett, Susan Livingston, Karen White, Milo, and Christophe.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get this organized here. Good evening, my name is Jackie Hermans Fletcher. I'm with the Albany Farm Alliance and the Giltrek Farm Coalition. And this is what I made to show you our visuals. They get to show you theirs, so I want to show you ours. And we are the future intellectual stewards of this 6-acre precious land, having been dismissed and disrespected by the bureaucrats. We see a different future for our community. We want to preserve the ecosystem. We want to preserve the bird habitats. We want to preserve the sacred sites and history. We want to preserve future trees. We want to preserve the trees. We want to preserve the creeks. We want to promote an agroecological education center and preserve gardens, herb gardens, food for generations. We want to remediate the soil, and we want to promote permaculture. And I would like to have everyone take one moment of silence for all the land that's going to be paved over after 10 years of me trying to fight for that and a million other people. Let's please take a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Signe Matson, 43-year resident of Albany, mother, grandmother, retired teacher. I am addressing the faith-based community in the East Bay, not those whose faith lies in the dollar, but in human beings. In acknowledgement of the passing of Chokwe Lumumba, the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, who said the purpose of government is to protect the human rights of the citizens within its jurisdiction. Now, you've had hundreds, I believe, of people over these large group gatherings that have presented many different alternatives. And I have faith that the property unit at UC and the regents at UC do really have the potential of having faith in more than the dollar. And I believe that you have heard some of what's been said repeatedly, and you do. I have faith that you will address the real issues and not this dollar bullshit.
Young lady, are you next? If you are, come forward.
Evening, council, citizens. My name is Milo. I am a lifelong resident of Berkeley and now resident of Albany. I'm here today to voice my opposition to the development plan. I understand there's lots of important different arguments on the table, but really protecting the environment is the most important one. Yes, we want to make Albany accessible. We want to make Albany profitable, but most of all, we want to make Albany livable. And I guarantee you, people aren't going to want to live in that senior housing center if there's a grocery store in a parking lot and cars outside it all the time. People are going to want to come to Albany to see our world-renowned, state-of-the-art, agroecological outreach center to teach everyone in the surrounding area how they can be self-sustainable and really create a future we all want to live in. I'm out.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen White. I'm a community health professional, specifically, or a public health professional, specifically community health and preventative medicine. I also used to be, last year, the production gardener at the Albany Children's Center, which is a preschool that serves 50% of the people are like free or reduced lunch status, or basically low-income kids and very diverse kids. I'm here because I support this alternative vision, and I wanted to give you a little bit of knowledge from a community health perspective that a truly sustainable food system provides a triple bottom line. It includes social equity, environmental sustainability, and economic opportunity. This includes providing healthy food for all at prices the entire community can afford, while paying fair wages to farm workers and protecting the environment. Urban ag projects initiated by the community tend to be more successful because of their local knowledge and understanding of residents' needs and assets.
Finish it up.
Additionally, these strategies that are being proposed are backed by the CDC. The California Endowment is funding them. Also, the most successful program at ending hunger is from Belo Horizonte, Brazil, and many of the proposed things that you're going to hear are all things that have been successfully adopted elsewhere and shown proven health outcomes.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, my name is Karen Holzmeister, and my parents and I moved here in 1960, and I've owned my own home here for 30 years. I'm here to speak in favor of the project. When maybe there are many people like myself who don't have a spouse, who don't have children, who don't have siblings, and they have to take care of their own destiny, their own future, and I have to do that for myself rather than perhaps moving from my home to an apartment, to a nursing home, back to an apartment, back to a nursing home, perhaps dementia care. I would like to go someplace where I could stay and not have to move from place to place to place. It's been my privilege here in Albany not only to graduate from Albany High School, but also to work in my neighborhood, to be part of the CERT program, to volunteer with my neighbors, to volunteer at my church, to volunteer at the senior center and other programs. Maybe I won't have the money to live there, and maybe I will if I sell my home. But again, to stay in this Albany community, there's not options. I would also like, perhaps if it could be clarified, how much space is now available for urban farming on the site, and after this development, how much space would be there? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brian Parsley, Albany resident. With a minute, I just quickly say I speak in favor of this project. I think that urban gardens are wonderful. The University Village has one of the largest urban gardens in Albany. And I think it's important to understand that the area that we're talking about is not on the Gill tract itself, the field. It's south of that, adjacent to that, and then part of the old barracks along Monroe. And I think that a wonderful urban farm there would someday be great. I think it would be a nice tie-in to what we have, a grocery store and a senior assisted living facility. I think sustainability is wonderful, but there's also economic sustainability. And that's what Albany has to have at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I skip introduction since we only have a minute?
Pardon?
Can I skip introduction since we only have a minute? Kelly. First of all, I think it's important that we all understand that the Gill tract was originally 104 acres and that the entire 20 acres that is undeveloped is still the Gill tract. Talk about economic viability. Why not have a 7-day-a-week farmer's market on the Gill tract, selling produce that is grown on the Gill tract, completely eliminating all carbon emissions of the process. It's fresh produce that everybody in Albany could ride their bike or walk to get. Organic farms have lots of work on them because you don't use chemicals and pesticides. Creates lots of jobs, creates educational opportunities. I understand this is a big thing about zoning. There's lots of other places that you can put senior housing. Housing's needed. I don't dispute that. There are other places for it. You don't need a grocery store. We can have a 7-day-a-week farmer's market. We have the north half of the field already saved for farming, so it just makes sense.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Livingston. I'm a refugee from HUD Housing for Elderly and Handicapped in Berkeley. My income is $900 a month. That's 900, not 9,000. So I don't know what you're talking about when you talk about affordable housing. I'm a retired biology teacher. I was a student when the word ecology was first coined. I'm very concerned about the privatization of water. And I've been part of this community visioning process, and my colleagues have asked me to speak about water, which I'm glad to do. There was a study at UC Berkeley by two UC Berkeley professors, Melissa Asher and another whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce because I only have a minute when I thought I'd have 3. In 1998, this is quoting from the study, UC Berkeley daylighted a 900-foot stretch of Village Creek and restored it to a 1,125-foot open channel flanked by 0.77 acres of wild, aquatic, and riparian habitat.
Okay, you need to tie up your
I will close this quote in just a moment. The project was an overall success and accomplished 2 of its 3 goals by daylighting the creek and improving riparian vegetation. However, the creek has further potential for success by allowing community access to the site. Although the original goal did not include community with involvement, this urban creek could become a living classroom and a play area for the broader school and village community
You
in
need
future years.
You need to finish up.
That was in 1998. This was published in 2005. Here we are in
Thank you. Thank you.
2014.
Thank you. You
What's
need to
the next
finish up.
step?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I just wanted to look at the sign behind you. It says you're an urban village, and you're responsible for the city of Albany. I've been involved, I live over on Cornell Avenue with my family since 1990. I've been involved in all the meetings over here through the years, through the evolution of the project, the original Whole Foods, moving it from one side to the other. The inclusion of the folks from the farm movement here, they came in at the last minute and suddenly claimed this parcel for themselves. There's been a settlement to include them in the north part. I think it's great. They can be part of a whole community there. You need the tax base. We need the tax base to cover schools from the commercial development here, including Sprouts Market. The people living in the Albany Village need food to buy walking distance from their homes. I think this is a great project. I support it. I support you in supporting this project. It's a viable project. We've all been part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next group, Maggie Barrett.
Just a minute.
He's not been here since day one, I have. I've been every day for 7 years. So I know he's not been there for past.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one rule here, and that's respect. If you do not wish to respect people, you may exit the building, because I expect to have respect. And if you don't, I am going to invoke the Sergeant at Arms. So I recommend that you respect other people if you want to stay here.
All right, well, this is not my comment. I'd like to talk about respect, in particular respect for the Brown Act. This agenda has crushed into one agenda item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 resolutions, which means with a minute to speak, that gives each person 6.666, or 6 2/3 seconds on each one of these. I don't believe that's reasonable. I believe that's a restriction based on the topic of speech, on the interest in the item, and I don't believe it's narrow. I don't believe it's narrow enough to be justified. It's not justified with the number of people here and the amount of time that you have for meetings. It's not justified by your past practices. I believe you're in the violation of the Brown Act, and I believe it's deliberate and excessive. Another ethical point, Mr. Jeff Bond. Mr. Jeff Bond worked at Capital Projects. Worked at Capital Projects at the UC on the precise same project he's advising you on. I want to know what kinds of conflicts of interest or history he disclosed to the city council. I want to know whether you considered that. I want to know whether, I'm sorry, this is my comment. I want to know whether or not you considered Jeff Bond's conflict of interest, where it was disclosed, and also where it was disclosed to the public. I would like to know that as well. Because that's a pretty huge...
You need to stop.
You need to stop. You need to stop violating the law and basic ethics. You need to stop giving people 6.6 seconds to speak on an item. That's preposterous. It is. No.
You need to stop now.
You give the people more time and yourself.
Christoph, stop.
I'm happy to walk out. Yeah.
Yes, please do.
All right.
There's a conflict of interest here. Sitting here staring
This is your final warning. This is your final warning. Okay, this is your final warning. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute recess.
That's his project. That's his baby. That's his baby. He developed that, and now he's representing it to you and advising you on it. Take a break and think about ethics. Think about morals. Take a time out and have the guy with the conflict of interest who's on your city council recuse himself too. You're in violation of the Brown Act.
Yeah. I believe you.
Okay, everybody back?
This other guy, he's probably handing it in for somebody else.
Okay.
Like Carol's handing in for other people.
All right. The meeting will come to order. Will you call the next group of people, please?
Maggie Barrett, Elliot Hughes, Garth Schultz.
Okay.
Hold on, let me finish calling. Dead. Could you close the council chamber door, please, in the back, please? Okay. Maggie Barrett, Elliot Hughes, Garth Schultz, Julie Winkelstein, Vanessa R., Dan S., Richard K., Leslie H.
All right. Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm a senior in the College of Natural Resources at UC Berkeley, and I was a part of the community visioning session that we had this weekend. City Council members, I understand that your primary job tonight is to vote on the legality of this development project for the Gill Tract. You have a particular job description and specific task ahead of you this evening, and to be honest, a lot of the complicated jargon is really hard for me to understand. But I want to challenge you to break out of these constraints. Approach this decision as a member of Albany and as a citizen of this planet. I have a request. Please listen to these appeals without preconceived thoughts about who we are, where we are from, or what our intentions are. If you came to the table tonight with your mind already made up, please ask yourself how you came to that conclusion and why. Have you considered the missed opportunities? On this 20-acre parcel of diverse natural landscape, surrounded by communities of need and institutions with resources, the possibilities are endless. Are buildings in concrete truly the highest and best use of these 20 acres that have the potential for so much more? You currently hold positions of tremendous power to impact the trajectory of the Albany community and the future of education and research at not only the University of California, Berkeley, but also the world. For one moment, let's take a step back from this 1 minute where we're each allowed to speak. This one meeting, this one situation to see the bigger picture.
You need to stop.
I'm almost done.
Yeah,
We're trying to create an opportunity for a more livable future, one with innovative solutions to social, environmental, and economic and political injustices. Please engage with us in a dialogue to figure out what that could be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, those in the audience. I'm Garth Schultz. I'm a resident, homeowner, and voter in Albany. I support the project and encourage you to deny the appeals. I'm also thankful that you're being very patient with the proceedings tonight. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I also have serious questions about the legality of your limiting comment time to around those 6 issues, 6 resolutions into 1 minute. I also wanted to combat the idea that Sprouts is good for workers or anything like that. They're actually owned by a union-busting leveraged buyout firm called Apollo Global Management in East Oakland, sir. They bought Hostess and they cut about 150 union jobs just in East Oakland. Okay, so I want to let you know that they're not a friend to all unionized workers.
They need to come in.
Anyways, on the benefit of public lands put to agricultural use, the Sunol Ag Park, owned by the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, is 18 acres of sustainable urban agricultural land, which they've leased to 4 farmers. They've developed a natural resource stewardship process, and they host over 20,000 elementary students at that site every year.
Thank you.
That's a possibility here.
Okay. Would you please close the door in the back? Thank you.
Julie Winkelstein, Albany resident. I'd ask you to, do the right thing. Um, I wanted to start out just by saying that I was surprised when I came tonight at how many people were here, and I would have liked to have seen smiling faces up at the front of the room in appreciation of the passion that has been brought into this room by all these people who are engaged in democracy, and how glad that you should be that there are this many people in our community who come forth to express their opinions and their passion. And I've been to many city council meetings where there was nobody in the audience. So rather than patience, I think you should be celebrating. I'd also like to see that you take advantage of the diverse opinions tonight to bring these people together to have a conversation, so that rather than being pitted against each other, you come up with a solution that means everybody here can work together. We do need senior housing. We need truly affordable housing, which the senior housing is not. And we also need urban agriculture. So I'd like you to consider that. I think I covered everything. And I'd also reiterate the point that somebody made about coming with an open mind. I hope that if you came in already have made up your mind, that you are actually listening to the people here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Raditz, and I'm a Master of Public Health candidate at UC Berkeley studying environmental health sciences. I would like to remind the council tonight of the dangerous levels of air pollution that already exist in the area, and how the additional diesel and traffic from this proposed project is going to add to the detrimental health impacts of this air pollution. And I have submitted documents that make a clear point about the role of city planning in improving community health. To make the point short, chronic disease is expensive, right? And it's expensive for your city. And I would like you to consider the impacts of lost productivity, lost educational opportunities for the children in this area. And when it comes to senior housing, our elders deserve better than to be placed in assisted living facility right next to a highway that is likely to trigger or exacerbate underlying health conditions. Seniors are more vulnerable to air pollution. You should demand more from UC Berkeley. You should demand that they research. This is my last point. You should demand that the educational facility that's here to do research is providing us with how do we remediate the air pollution and protect public health. And that's in your interest. Thank you.
Greetings, folks. My name is Richard Koenig. I'd like to present an alternative example of how we can use this land. I have a business of healing spirit plants. I grow and sell medicinal herb plants from around the world. And I'd like to propose to convert my business into a community-centered medicinal herb garden. I've drawn up this visionary scheme of centerpiece of medicinal herb garden so that you can see how it might work. Each garden has an opportunity, each of these is a traditional herb garden of different traditions around the world, like Chinese and Ayurvedic and Latin American, African American, etc. And each one would be an opportunity for elders to teach the herbs of the traditions they know before they're lost. Each would be an opportunity for acquaintance, inspiration, education, and invitation. Each is an outdoor classroom. Each is a meditative space, a place to be in the garden, grounding our wild energies. Each is an opportunity to commune with compassionate plant energies. The scheme also includes a boutique shop for the procurement of herbal products.
You need
2 classroom buildings, a medicine-making building, research greenhouses, and places for nurseries and people to procure plants.
Okay, you need to finish up.
This is something we can all do together. I would like to hope that we can do that together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You need to.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. So I'm a little flustered. I didn't know I was going to be here or speak to any of you, but I'd like to give my 2 cents, which are essentially that. As far as the Bay Area is concerned, I think that there's an important question of identity here, and I think that the question of what to do with this land. Is important in terms of setting precedents for creativity and democracy and community involvement. And I think that the Bay Area is a very wonderful, beautiful, innovative place. And I think that a lot of people have come here tonight with extremely well thought out ideas and alternative proposals, all of which I think demand a lot of attention, because I don't personally believe that continuing along sort of status quo developmental lines is really ultimately in anyone's best interests. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dan.
Do you have other cards?
Yes. Next batch. Brittany B, Dina O, Lonan N, Jordan, Dakota G, James E, Jacob S, Ulan M, Carol O'Keefe, Eric, and Clay Larson.
Hello, my name is Brittany Baskerville. I'm a conservation and resource study undergrad at UC Berkeley. I came to Berkeley knowing exactly what I wanted to study, and like many before me, I had observed the numerous faults in the current industrial food system. We all know what these faults are to varying degrees, and some people have placed these problems at a higher priority than others. But the fact is, if you eat food, these problems are yours too, whether you know it or not. Like many before me, I was overwhelmed by the scale of these problems. Like many before me, I was intimidated by the forces perpetuating these problems. Like many before me, I wanted to do something to solve these problems. The city of Albany has a chance to take a step forward in reshaping our food system, or it has a chance to take a step backwards. You have a chance to put yourself on the map as leaders in the movement to recreate a food system that we can be proud of and not ashamed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deanna Oganesian. I am an undergraduate student at UC Berkeley in the College of Natural Resources. I was also part of the visioning forum for the alternative plan on the Gill Tract, and I will be speaking about the different mental health benefits, both individual and community-wise, that our plan for the tract could bring. Now, mental health, as defined by the World Health Organization, is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community, essentially resiliency. Now, surely this is something that we all want for the Albany community. Our plan for the urban farm will provide people of all ages to volunteer and directly contribute to bringing the gift of organic whole food to the community, affordable organic whole food. Now, furthermore, healthy bodies lead to healthy minds, and this has been proven by studies that show that, oh God.
So one last sentence.
Thank you. Oh God. Now, processed foods, which would be abundant in the Sprouts market, but not present in our tract, have been proven to adversely affect cognitive function, whereas whole plant foods only increase it and improve it.
Okay, that's it.
Furthermore, the green space in the tract...
You need to quit. You need to stop. Your time is up.
I would like to ask for one more sentence, please.
Okay.
Thank you. The green space in the tract will provide people with physical activity, social contact, and relaxing environments, as well as a meditation and spiritual space for every single member of the community. This will lead to an improved mental health of this city and the nearby area, which is something we so desperately need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Eula McKnight, Albany resident. When running for city council this last time, I was reminded over and over by certain people that the Occupy the Farm people had broken the law, and so therefore what I was trying to represent was thrown out. And in response to what I think is a clear violation of the law, I have chosen to sue city council, as you know. I feel that you will find out soon enough in the courts which of us is right. I think, though, however, that I caution you that it has become very clear that this process is being circumvented time and time again, and as you get further down, you're opening yourself up to even more extreme. All I did was the EIR thing. What you guys are doing now is way beyond that, and I would like to just say that the options that are before you are very, very easy for us to come up with an alternative that unites Albany as opposed to divides Albany. And it's just a shame that with all this possibility and all these thoughts there, one last sentence, with all this possibility and all these thoughts there, that we are going for the lowest common denominator, the easiest thing to understand, and that is how does UC maximize profit at the expense of the community of Albany?
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jake Seifer. I'm a freshman at UC Berkeley. I'm speaking in opposition to the redevelopment plan. I came to the Bay Area this year because it seemed to me like a place where people were committed to sustainability, to social justice, to food justice, to democratic institutions and practices and processes. But in the last few months, my interactions with the UC Berkeley administration have given me the impression, have shown me that I had the wrong impression. It's the repeated selling off of public property to private use is a big deal, and the practices of this university in ignoring the needs of its constituents, of ignoring its public mission, of ignoring both students, faculty, and the Albany community who have risen in protest against this development plan, have shown me that these democratic processes are failing. However, I think that people power is resilient. I think that this is why bodies like this one exist, is to represent the voices of the people. And I'm very hopeful that you guys will do the right thing, will continue to inspire me in the Bay Area's democratic ideals by defeating this redevelopment plan. Thank you.
Thank you. James, would you please close the door?
Hello, members of the council, mayor. My name is James. I'm a first-generation farmer and a student of holistic nutrition. My colleagues and I are committed to providing soul food, that is seasonal, organic, unprocessed, local food, to low-income families. I think this is very important for public health and for education. I want to bring up an example of an urban farm in Milwaukee where an ex-basketball player, not a scientist, not a researcher like who I'm working with, but an ex-basketball player turned 3 acres of vacant land in less favorable conditions than what we have here and produced 1 million pounds of organic produce, that is with no petroleum input, every year since he started 10 years ago. And I think this is possible here, and we can surpass that. So this isn't your cute urban farm. This isn't your small little garden on a rooftop. This has serious potential to feed the hungry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, members of the council. My name is Dakota Glick. I'm a student at UC Berkeley. And I wanted to take my time to remind you of the immense value that this farm could bring to Albany. Berkeley and San Francisco are world-famous cities for their food. I'd like to see us, and in this opportunity, bring Albany into that conversation and make Albany a famous city for its food. Increase revenues to Albany restaurants and increase traffic to Albany. So I think there's not only a great social gain to be had here, but also an economic one beyond a simple development which would provide only short-term revenues and very little social change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jordan, and I am a union worker with the IWW. I want to reiterate one of the points that my friend brought up, which is that Apollo Global Management is a union-busting firm. They have laid off 150 workers in East Oakland of the Bakers, Confectionery, and Tobacco and Grain Millers Union. So you're bringing in this group. You're bringing in Apollo Global Management into your city. They have a track record of abusing workers and trying to destroy organized of unions, which we really kind of need, you know? There's also an interesting point. There's a Whole Foods going up 2 blocks away, you know, just right across the border from your city, down that way. It's so interesting to me because this development has been pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed for this plot of land, and yet there are plenty of other places for it to go, but don't have the same viability for growing food. Like Whole Foods, okay? That's BS. And what also is BS is you calling for respect when you've cut the amount of time we have down from 3 minutes to 1 minute, which is not respectful. It's not respectful.
You need to stop.
It is not respectful, and it really kind of pisses me off.
You need to stop. You need to stop right now.
I need to stop. I need to stop. Right.
Thank you.
Democracy.
Good evening. I'm Carol O'Keefe. I'm a 30-year Albany resident. Coming back to the matters before you tonight, I encourage you to accept the staff recommendations and to deny these appeals with the modifications that have been suggested. I looked over the materials. I think the modifications and the write-up warrant a support of Planning and Zoning Commission's actions, and I encourage you to, as I said, accept the staff recommendations. I commend you for your patience tonight. You will be rewarded somewhere, I hope sooner than heaven. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening to the mayor and council. My name is Lauren Nelson, and I'm an undergraduate student at UC Berkeley. And I would like to ask the council tonight to consider the economic benefit of a local food system. I understand the economic gains. We can produce revenue from a Sprouts grocery store. However, when we support local businesses rather than corporations, $73 out of every 100 stays in the local community and is regenerated rather than 43, which would go back, which would stay, and the rest would go to a corporation. I would like the council to consider that the Gill Tract is a space in the Bay Area with the potential for much greater impact in strengthening the local economy and community more than any grocery store ever could. With the opportunity to grow and sell local food, we're generating social capital and a stronger, more economically resilient community. By using principles of sharing economy, we can build tool and seed libraries for community and university use for the research. Our plan fosters economic growth by means of local job creation with opportunities for working in the farmer's market, growing food, and cooking in the kitchen. There's an opportunity for community education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next group of people, Brooke M., Jonathan R., Tiffany T., Peggy McQuaid, Todd Abbott, Pat M., Alan R., David S., Elise T.
Clay Larson, Albany residents. I simply want to talk about the amended PUD that's on the agenda for possible approval. PUDs, as you know, provide exceptions to development standards provided two things are met, that the project provides amenities and there's some nexus or link between that amenity and the exception. The lawyers, I believe, have added language to this thing, to the resolutions that says because city can require as a condition of approval public amenities that otherwise would not be provided. On page 3, we finally get some examples of that. First is require that the design of all public amenities be completed prior to the issuance of the first building permit. 2 is require that public amenities be completed prior to the occupancy of the first phase of the project. I think this council should ask themselves the question, could these have been required as simply conditions of approval? Of course they could. Could they have been provided in a project that wasn't 58 feet tall but was 38 feet tall that met our design standards? Of course they could. These, and for every single exceptional amenity, the fact that they're going to comply with complete streets requirements is not an amenity. But in each case, there's no nexus between the amenity and the exceptions. And so the staff have failed to provide support for the PUD.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Brooke Marino. I'm a student of UC Berkeley. I've spoken at these before, and my stance has not changed. I'm against this development. I want to use my short time to point out that it's beautiful when community comes together, and this room represents a lot of people, a lot of diverse people I've seen in the classroom, at the bus stop, in these meetings before. And I do feel like we are being pitted against one another, and that there are chances to work together. I want to hear out the seniors of Albany, and it's a shame that
You need to speak to the council.
It is a shame that our communities do not support our elders and also our youth. And I think that's a challenge for each of us right now, and I think it's best met with a community visioning forum. And I encourage everybody in Albany and in the community to come on out to those forums. Thank you very much.
Thank
It's good
you.
to see you all here.
Say when. Hello, my name is Jonathan Reeder. I too am a student of UC Berkeley. And I just thought, since I don't actually live here, I should just let you know that you're about to write yourself out of history. Because, I mean, I don't mean to brag, but the university is one of the top, if not the top, research institution in the world. And the conversation being had in the classrooms, in the hallways, between professors, between students and professors is, we need to fix food. And the tool to do it is sitting right there. It's waiting. It's waiting for us. It's waiting for you. It's waiting for this city to utilize it. And so Albany really faces a dilemma right now. You face a dilemma. You can be the city council that paved over some land and built more things, or you can be the city council that used the tools and human resources that are within a bus ride of this spot right now to make the world a better place and to go down history. Just thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, the people. Hi, City Council.
You need to speak to the city council.
I know. Thank you. Hi, City Council and the Mayor. My name is Elise Toulouse. I'm an undergrad at the University of California in the College of Natural Resources, and I'm a member of the Student Organic Garden. My mom is 61 years old and has multiple sclerosis. She is already retired, and I think every day about how I'm going to make sure she's taken care of when she is even older and needs the assistance that all elder people need. I'm going to make that happen because I have my education, which means I'm going to have the human capital and the financial capital to support her in her olden days. We need to develop our cities and our country to benefit the majority of people, not just the wealthiest of people. Quickly, I want to share with you some amazing information. It's fast. In studies of lower income households, the greenness of a young person's home or window views positively impacted cognitive functioning, ability to concentrate, and self-discipline.
You need to tie up your
Green
statement.
spaces are great for our mental health, and we're all in this country suffering from depression in higher rates than we ever have in U.S. history, in all generations, and we need exercise and gardens to help us.
Thank you.
What I speak to you, land that is loved, is an elegy of what you will have been. Not only a footpath for the deer and wild birds, you came to me murmuring like the rivers that ran through you, of the ways we humans could be kind. How will I then return to you when you are gone, or our children learn that their hands and soil sustain them? When you no longer stand out as a purveyor of life, a field of mustard gold, a great pregnancy beneath our feet, breathing like a startled thrush in an otherwise quiet field. That beacon that draws near, and in doing so, almost goes out. I feel the longing of the home you are, the songs and the grass and the ancient oaks. And it is a world that listens apart from our own, for understanding and the thought that these could remain.
Thank you.
Good evening, Todd Abbott, Albany resident, parent, business owner, volunteer, and vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to speak tonight. You're hissing me already. You don't even know what I'm going to say. That's. I just want to encourage you to resist the effort to delay. We've been down this road many times, and there's no doubt in my mind that every effort will be made to delay this process. I just want to remind you, you know this, we remind you that delay can easily turn into denial. I also want to speak on behalf of the small businesses, these small local businesses everybody seems to be so concerned about. This is a great opportunity for them. It will bring people, it will bring visibility, it will bring opportunities for financing so they can grow. This is what we need, and particularly in that part of the city.
And then finally, I just want to mention, I wasn't going to do this, but I have a few seconds. Just read from a report from Claude Hitchison. He's the Dean of College of Agriculture in the early part of the 20th century. This is regarding the Gill Tract. Only a small portion of that tract is good soil. The rest of it is rather heavy adobe clay. Up until World War II, we were still expecting it to be used, but that the government kind of ruined it. So I just want to put that out there and take it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I'm Peggy McQuaid, lifetime Albany resident. And before I start, I do want to commend the students, the younger to me anyway, people that are here tonight. I think they're doing a fabulous job up here presenting their point. When I was in college, idealistic though I probably was, I wouldn't have come to a council meeting like this. So I think that you all should be commended. However, we need to focus on the issues at hand and which land we're really discussing and which land we're not discussing. The project, which is supported by many Albany residents, and I think you've noticed tonight that the Albany residents who have stood before you are saying, let's do this, let's move forward. It'll benefit and revitalize San Pablo Avenue. As you know, that's a gateway to our city, and it's pretty shabby right now. And this will certainly revitalize, make it better. This process has gone on for far too long. It's time to move it forward. I hope you deny the appeals. And I also just want to tell you that I received a text tonight from a woman who had to put her mother in memory care in another city. And her mother had lived here for 50 odd years, and she's really sad. I'm going.
Thank you.
Ellen Riffer, echoing comments from many of the preceding speakers. And this has been a long discussion, 10 years worth. Many of the ideas that are being presented tonight, as if for the first time, have been heard many times. And it's not that they haven't been listened to. They've been listened to. They've been thoughtfully considered, along with many other ideas. And what you have before you is a better project than what was first discussed. But it's time for approval, and hopefully that will come tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any others? Do you have any other cards?
No more card, but are you speaking?
Is there anyone who has not
you.
spoken who wishes to speak on the issue? If so, if you'll line up over here.
I already called you. Yeah, I already called.
Okay. You resent it?
Oh, here, they have cards. Will you please give the clerk your cards?
David Sanger, 37 years living in Albany. I urge you to quickly deny these appeals and let this project go forward. We've had years of analysis and public commentary and years of obstruction and multiple lawsuits which have not gone anywhere. Much of the opposition you've heard has come from people who live outside of Albany. I'm sorry to say that much of it is based on fantasy. This land was never a farm. It is not a garden either. It was a flower nursery for 30 years. It's now an empty lot where crummy married student housing used to be. I was going to give the quote that Dean Hutchinson gave. This is not a climate change issue or a food sufficiency issue or not an environmental issue. And those are all really important issues. This is about shops and a senior center. The complaints about Sprouts are really misguided. You can't pick and choose what stores you can allow to have in Albany based on whether you like what they sell or not. We don't work that way. And you can't complain about, the complaints about pollution are misguided also because this project reduces it. I drive to Trader Joe's or Berkeley Bowl. I would drive less by coming here. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you come to the podium, please?
Good evening, I'm Effie Rawlings. I'm a UC alum and a member of Occupy the Farm, Gill Tract Farm Coalition. I just wanted to mention a few things actually directly to Mr. Sanger, who just spoke, and also Mr. Barnes, who recently posted a blog post about the soil that is misinformed, talked about the soil being a clay pan. This exemplifies that you haven't actually been there and put your hands in the soil, because if you did, or if you put an auger 4 feet down into it, you would see that there is really good tilth 4 feet down. And then there's a clay pan, which is actually a great thing because it stops the moisture and holds it there. So in times of drought, you still have moisture in there. That's why Professor Miguel Altieri's dry farm tomatoes, which don't get watered all summer long, flourish and provide delicious tomatoes. It actually gets deeper as you go west, the tilth. So I think you guys should really check your facts, Mr. Sanger and Mr. Barnes, because you are representing the people of Albany.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Leslie Haddock. I am frequently in situations like this where adults are telling me that children are the future, that the youth are the future. And then I'm frequently in positions like this where the youth is here saying what we want to see, and the adults are saying no. Again and again. The reason that we do things that are illegal, and the reason that that Yulin hears complaints about Occupy the Farm is because the youth, we don't feel like we have 15 years to sit in these meetings. Climate change is imminent. And we're all looking forward to solutions. UC Berkeley has the opportunity to be doing this research, and you guys have an opportunity to create that. And I completely agree that the city needs housing, not just for the seniors, but for the people that are being displaced from the Albany bulb, who, there are 42 otherwise homeless people. I'll finish with this sentence. There are 42 otherwise homeless people in Albany who are not being taken care of because the city has no low-income housing whatsoever. And they're going to be out on the streets.
Okay, thank you.
Evening. My name is Buddy Williams. I'm an Albany resident with kids in the Albany schools. At home, we raise chickens, bees, and grow a good portion of our fruits and vegetables in our small urban lot. I appreciate the Occupy the Farm and the other related groups' enthusiasm in regards to ecological food systems. I encourage you guys to continue your dialogue with UC Berkeley in transforming the existing 7-acre plus or minus research plot into a center for urban agriculture. It'd be really cool if the larger northern part of the tract was used for a center for sustainable urban farming. But what we're here tonight for is the just under 3-acre southern end of the Gill Tract, which was most recently the site of the old Army barracks. There are no plans by any developer that I know of to pave over the larger northern part of the Gill Tract. Proposed development is a compromise, I'll agree to that. It's certainly an improvement over their first Sprout proposal, which placed the grocery store towards the back of the lot. That part of San Pablo is in sore need of a quality urban development, and my family would benefit if that project was built and the tax revenues went towards supporting our town. Political activist issues are not what is being considered here tonight, and I encourage you to pass the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eva Melis from UC Berkeley. In a nationwide study, it was shown in a comparison of local food systems and farms that lie within corporate markets that every $1 increase of direct farm sales corresponds in total farm sales increase by $9. Additionally, every $1 increase in farm income increases actual personal per capita income by 0.22% in a 5-year period. That is to say, corporate markets are an indirect way to support the economy, if you do not wish to see it as an outright extractive to workers. Second, local farming is not only better in terms of boosting the economy, it is economically distributive. This is relevant to the collective community alternative vision of the Gill Tract, which includes not only interest in agricultural self-sufficiency, but also exploring regenerative community and economic models, not based on exploitative markets, but on how these models, and how these models could benefit the local East Bay community.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm an artist and educator. I work with youth. I grew up in the Bay Area. My parents were of a generation that was experiencing a lot of social change. There was a lot of visionaries of their generation. I think we benefit from the cultural changes that have happened. I think something I see happening in my generation is a similar kind of social change, even in the past few years, and you guys have seen it too. And so there are a lot of visionaries coming out right now. And even, being raised in this area, I was told as a very small child about global warming, about a lot of ecological things that so far the bureaucratic class has done very little to address. And so I think it's really important that these things are taken seriously, that these people aren't dismissed. The fact that these many people are coming in with energy, who are essentially volunteers, many with great skills that they have so far received no compensation for, no pay. Even economically, what is being offered is amazing, and I think that should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has not spoken on the issue who wishes to speak?
Yeah, I called.
Yes, no, I was here. So I have a lot of interventions here. It's really good because, no, it's okay. Because I have been in many presentations and conferences, and I never have seen all this clarity, this kind of clarity that all these young people have about alternatives. And I wonder if you want young alternative or all problems. What do you want? If you go to Seattle, they create the food forest last year, 7 acres in Seattle, in the city. And they created to have free food for everyone who want to come to pick it up. If you go to Michigan, to Detroit, to Chicago, everywhere you go, you can see that cities are working with their communities to create spaces to grow food. I don't know why are you closing this possibility in Albany. As Effie says before, it's amazing the soil. They have been building this soil for 100 years. In other places, we have a lot of problems to bring compost and create our soil. So I wonder if you are going to listen to young alternatives or to all problems.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Go ahead.
All right. Hello, my name is Allie Lawler, and I am a freshman at UC Berkeley. I just wanted to mention that the Student Organic Gardening Association at Berkeley teaches 228 students how to grow food on 1,100 square feet, and all 20 acres of the Gill Tract are over 1 million square feet. So this is a lot of potential to teach kids how to, or students, or anybody how to grow and have and understand food systems. So I would just like you to consider that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay.
You can go ahead and
come on. You need to come on. You come. Yeah.
My name is Hallie Bidod, and I'm a student at UC Berkeley and the niece of a business owner down the street on San Pablo in Albany. I just want to reiterate that your decision can either put you down in the textbooks that I read every day as a failure of society towards creating a sustainable future, or as an example of how to create a better future for everyone in this room. And I would just like to point out that the member of the youth that is here is all in favor. I don't see a student from UC Berkeley here that is against this project. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would you please close the door? Would you please close the door? Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. You spoke, Jackie. You already spoke. Yeah. Okay. We're closing the public hearing, and we're going to take a 3-minute recess. Where's Michael? Where's Michael go? Do you know where Michael is? Have you seen him? Oh, there he Okay. Michael, come on. Sir? Let's close the door, please.
I'll go get it.
Okay, if you're in the room, there are seats available. I would like you to sit, please. Folks, you need to sit down. There are a couple more seats over here, so come over here and you can sit over here.
Also, some people have disabilities. I'd like to let you know that sitting down is painful for certain people, particularly people with sciatica.
The council has, the council is going to,
Violates the Americans with Disabilities Act. You need to obey.
the council will take a 2-minute recess, and when we come back, if anybody, is there any outbursts, you will be removed from the room. I will call the sergeant at arms. So we will take 2 more minutes. You can, then you can.
You need to obey the law, and you're not. Take your recess, go read the law, and obey it.
So everybody knows where we're going to be March 15th, right? know there's another community forum to follow up with this visioning process this Sunday. No matter what this council says, we're going to continue to develop our vision for our land.
At the Albany Senior Center from 2 to 5. There's some flyers and passes go out for those that are interested.
Okay, the meeting will come to order. The council is going to deliberate. As I said, this is a public meeting of the council. I expect you to give the council the same respect that the council gave you when you were speaking. If you choose not to, you will be removed. I have sergeant-at-arms available to do that.
Okay, cameras.
Light check.
This
is what democracy looks like.
Mic check.
Mic check.
I will have everyone know. That we were told. When they return. If there was an outbreak. We would be removed. I would like to know. If anyone here. Could stop making outbreak. How is it legal?
Okay. The meeting will come to order, and we will bring it back to council. I would like staff to comment on some of the questions that were asked by the appellants, if you could do that.
Ms. Collins, at the beginning of her presentation, talked a little bit about the Planning and Zoning Commission and the findings associated with the timing of the approval of the housing element. And maybe, Todd, if I can ask you to kind of clarify how we're going to approach that.
Sure, and just to clarify, so she raised the point of there was a statement in attachment A to resolution 2014-21, which is the resolution to deny the appeal of AHA, that there were no changes to the Planning Commission's findings and conditions of approval. So that's inaccurate. And so to clarify, Jeff will spell out what the changes are, but there are changes being made to the findings. With respect to that attachment, it's going to be updated to reflect the fact that the council did approve the housing element on Monday, and that all of the resolutions are new resolutions being adopted by the council rather than simply approving what the Planning Commission did. So they will all reflect consistency findings with the general plan, including the new housing element adopted on Monday.
All right, and then Mr. Fields asked a question of the council that we had discussed, I believe, with each other or with staff, your comments that you had sent us. Would any council member like to comment on that? Okay, would you?
I just had the report that I read.
Mr.
Same
Barnes,
here.
did you speak to?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Fields made a sort of a vague comment about my interactions with him. The first thing I want to say, Ed, is there's no need for you to forward your emails to the city attorney, because I always forward your emails to the city attorney. So that's already happened. This may come as a surprise to many of you in the room, but actually, there are a lot of very opinionated people in the city of Albany. And Ed Fields and I both happen to be opinionated people, and Ed and I have had disagreements going back for years, since long before I was on the council. My first memory of really talking to Ed was on the corner of Brighton and Keynes. I was sitting there with my old RF frequency meter and my new RF frequency meter, and I was measuring emissions from the ugly monopole Verizon tower when Ed just happened to come by, and we had, at that time, a pretty nice conversation about these issues. We ended up being on very different sides of the issue of cell towers in Albany. But I think we've all had a pretty collegial relationship. Ed, I'm not sure if you guys know this, was some sort of RF engineer at UC Berkeley. I think Ed retired at probably about 2008. I'm not sure of the date. Anyway, and over the last couple of weeks, I've spent hours arguing and disagreeing with Ed via the internet about various topics. I think Ed misinterpreted our disagreements as me having prejudice against him. I don't have prejudice against Ed. I just often disagree with him. So I'm going to read my statements to you right now regarding Ed. So here's number one. I have had many disagreements over the years with Mr. Fields, but I have no prejudice against Mr. Fields. 2, the issues before us tonight are technical in nature, and I will deal with them in an objective fashion. 3, my overriding concern is the well-being of 18,000 residents of the city of Albany. It is my sworn duty to represent all 18,000 of them equally. I will make my judgments tonight in the interest of all 18,000 residents.
And I have had no contact with the other people regarding your communications.
I haven't had any private discussions with anybody on council about this. Anything I've learned from staff were in the weekly staff updates of what's on the agenda, but no, just general stuff.
Same for me. Okay, thanks, Gary. All right, would somebody like to comment? I know you have some comments. You want to start?
I have some comments.
Yeah, I know you do, so go ahead.
Let me say first, I actually appreciate all the energy and passion in here, and I was once a student at UC and was very passionate about the things I was passionate about at that point in time. I agree with a lot of what was said tonight, particularly in terms of the global idea of what's going on in the planet and some of the things that were said in support of urban farming. I think it's a good thing. I suspect that most people on this council and most people in Albany would agree with that. I also agree with when one of the speakers said that your fight that you're bringing to us tonight is really with the regents. If the regents had proposed a eco-farm educational center for this same spot, we would have gone through the same process that we've gone through with this development. And it would have gone up on its merits or down on its merits, but that's not what they proposed. They proposed a development which, although I think it's been characterized a lot tonight as paving over paradise, essentially, there's some very ecological reasons and sustainable reasons why this project will work for Albany and the East Bay. I would encourage you to keep fighting for your cause and urban farming, but I think the energies are a little bit misdirected here in Albany. So with that, the other thing is that we're really here to talk about a particular appeal of this development and agreements that planning and zoning, decisions that planning and zoning have made. We're not, what you're bringing up is so far out of what we can, by Brown Act standards, even get into that, we're not going to go there. We're going to stick with what we're here to decide on. So, given that, I have some other ideas that I've wanted to set forth tonight. As to the appeals, the actual reason why we had this meeting, the position that the lack of the housing element negates decisions made by planning and zoning, I think that argument was made mute by council's actions on Monday night. And I find the proposed amendments and clarifications that we are voting on tonight and the staff's responses to Ed's appeals issues are solid, and I'm comfortable voting in support of denying the appeals and the project going forward. Ultimately, I'm supporting this project not because it's perfect. It's not. I've said that last year, and I'll keep saying it. But on balance, the pluses for Albany are greater than the minuses. The pluses that I like are there's an assisted housing element, which I think may not benefit all Albany residents, but it will benefit some and many residents who are part of the larger community. That's a demand that is growing, and you know, there's going to be more assisted housing coming along as the demographics change. The grocery store may be or may not be my choice of grocery stores in Albany, but we don't get to, you know, we're not Yelp. We don't decide on what stores are cool and what stores aren't cool. And the store will serve both Albany Village and a good part of Albany, particularly west of San Pablo, with a reasonably walkable and place where, in the end, it may well, like a lot of infill development, help reduce greenhouse gases. And there are some. And
Would you please,
there are
would
some
you-
other
wait a
benefits,
minute.
including,
Yeah, never mind. She did it.
yeah, we get more than a minute up here. There are also some reassurances by the university that to the Albany Little League that allows that kids will have a place to play ball in the coming years, and that's come out of this process.
You need to.
So, you know, it's not a debate. We weren't debating when you guys spoke. I don't disagree.
Don't. That's not
Okay,
arguing.
you
Stop.
Thank
Stop.
you. Do that.
Don't talk.
Okay, so, you know, in a way, it's difficult to bring up some of the minuses of this project, but I'll bring up what I see are the minuses, not probably what you guys see. I would put those into 3 areas. Parking, the missed opportunity for some affordable housing, and some design issues, which are, I'm sure nothing most of this crowd is interested in, but I'm going to bring them up anyway. Parking was originally planned to be underground when this was first presented to planning and zoning. And I understand how the cost related to the technical difficulties with our high water table probably took that out of the mix pretty early on. But it still would have been a better place to put cars. I think there's way too much parking on the retail side. Given that San Pablo is a transit corridor, and I believe this is not a goal that it's going to make our commercial areas more walkable or bikeable or bike-friendly. Cars are very last century and don't really have a place in an urban environment. What works in a car-oriented Walnut Creek suburb, I don't think it's going to work in the future in Albany very well. The senior housing parking, I would have preferred it if this was back off of the street. I think it would have made more sense. Some retail infill on this infill project, I think, would greatly improve it over time, but that's not happening now. And for now, I think this can go ahead. As to the housing thing, a lot's been said in Albany. Housing is the big issue in our town as far as I can see. We need more of it. We need more affordable housing. And I think there were some lost opportunities here that if that had been included, I think it would have helped the project. I think it would have helped the developers. I think it would have helped the stores that are going to go in there. You know, a lot of these things can happen at a later date, and I'm hoping that at some point they do happen, that there may be some infill housing that could go on over the retail or in the part of the parking lot that you don't need on, that I don't think you'll need on the assisted living side. A final word about the design. I think in many ways this project did get better as it went along. There are other ways that I think some of the design details that you spoke to initially kind of got lost, and you know, it's sort of a mix there. I know there's always a degree of bait and switch in these projects, but initially gets put before planning and zoning, looks great, and then over time, changes happen, such as the parking thing. Probably a good example of that might be the El Cerrito Mall, where they initially proposed a giant clock tower that by the end of the project was more like a timepiece in the middle of their circle. If you're not familiar with El Cerrito, you may not get that. Towards the end of many projects, a lot of pressure is on the developers to cut costs and come under budget. And I think sometimes when that happens, you lose materials or you lose design elements which improve this thing. So to possibly help safeguard this, I would recommend that we consider a condition in our approvals tonight that would state that deviation from the plans as approved would have to go back before planning and zoning and not be done by the community development director, who usually makes those kind of decisions. I think it'll help kind of keep the process on track and keep the designs that planning and zoning approved as part of the whole thing. Those are my comments at this point, so somebody else has something to say.
Somebody else want to speak?
Yeah, I agree that I really appreciate all of the, because we all want to do the sustainability and we all really want a lot of the things that people have spoken to tonight, and I feel like our hands are basically tied in terms of what the regents have here and what has come before us in terms of what the decision is. That it's a very narrow decision. And so in terms of the decision we can make, I don't think that we're in a position to be able to do some of those things. It's unfortunate but this is this huge, long process, and we're at a point where this is from the. So, thank you.
I can keep my
You
comment.
need to give her respect. She gave you respect. You need to give her respect.
I can keep my comments to a minute. I'd like to thank students for coming to Albany to speak about their ideas, and I hope people will follow up on Dean Gillis's invitation to participate in our having an urban farm on the farmable area of the Gill Tract. And I am hoping that we'll proceed with a vote on the resolutions because I think people are having a hard time listening.
Yes. Okay. I did have one question, and that is, could the developer give us assurance about that retail would be built? What kind of assurance are you willing to give us about that? Because we have not you. Under the senior housing.
Our plan right now is to build it simultaneous with the Sprouts. So we've already started the leasing process there.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. All right, thank you. All right.
I also had a question. Is there any way to, like, I haven't been able to see an overview of what trees would be taken out and where they would actually be put back, and it may be in my computer somewhere, but I didn't see that. Is there a way for us to see what more of that detail is, and if there's any way to save more of the trees? I'd like to hear more about that at some point.
Survival rate is very low.
Okay, you need to,
Can we ask for a follow-up on that? Not tonight. Can we ask for a follow-up about that, but not tonight?
yeah, yeah, sure. Did staff hear that? Council would like a follow-up on that?
Council at a future meeting
Yeah.
on the plan for the landscape, sure.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments or?
I haven't made any comments yet, but I have a procedural question first. There's various sorts of geographical entities that we're discussing tonight, sort of the trees to the north, the creek to the south, the open space issues around the Belmont development. Now, as we work ourselves through the process for the rest of the evening, are we going to be able to discuss those issues separately? My concern is what we're doing tonight is very technical, and I appreciate that we have to do that, but for me, as an Albany City Council person, there are value issues embedded in these decisions, such as how do we weigh the costs and benefits of moving trees, or how do we deal with the trade-offs of interior versus exterior open space for demented seniors who might be living in, the Belmont project, or are for example, the Friends of Five Creeks and groups like that, are they satisfied, that's my impression, that we're doing a good job and we've sufficiently set aside funds for the restoration of the creek? I can do these in one fell swoop, or I can sort of do these, I can just express my feelings. I've done that before. Or so do you want me to do that now or during the process? My concern is that there's technical stuff to deal with. I want to get to the technical stuff while our brains are fresh. In writing down notes on the comments I heard tonight, I could go on about many of the misconceptions in these comments for an hour. And I don't really want to do that. I could maybe do that briefly. So, Madam Mayor, what's your preference?
You're the council member, you get to do as you wish.
Well, it sounds like Jeff has some ideas about that.
Well, it's certainly at the pleasure of the council how you want to approach your discussion. I would suggest doing it now, and then we can absorb all that. And then at the end of your discussion, we can summarize for you what we think we've heard, some of the technical amendments that we would want to recommend to you, and just kind of go through those resolutions all at once. And then you could pick it up from there to determine if someone wants to make a motion one way or the other.
How about if I try to keep my comments to less than 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a request. Mr. Fields, you had a great slide that you had projected earlier of the old village with an outline of the project. Could I see that again? So while that's being set up, I want to say a couple of things. To Mr. McKnight, excellent job on the mic check. Usually when Leslie Haddock does those, she breaks down and giggles, but you had the right gravitas and seriousness, and so I appreciate that. And it also gave me time to finish reading that New York Times article that I had started before the meeting.
Okay, you need to be quiet. Otherwise, I'm going to invoke the Sergeant at Arms.
Whole damn system's out of order.
Okay. We're going to a 2-minute recess.
You need a 2-minute recess. process.
Are you scolding?
You can't run away from climate change.
Scolding us? Barnes is rude. You're scolding us. You don't need to scold us. Not okay. Try not to be so condescending. Abuse of power.
Well, it's obviously the problem, the projector or the computer?
Wait till the police come.
Why are you suggesting that modification? I don't get it.
The condition? Because I don't want to see anything downgraded on in the design or in the materials. And unfortunately, I've seen it too many times. If I bring it back before planning and zoning, it slows up that happening.
I'm worried about this group in terms of slowing anything down.
Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Okay. I'm waiting till the police come. I'm waiting for the police to come. Because I don't want to wait because I don't want somebody speaking out. I just want to wait for them. Here they are. Okay. All right, the meeting will please come to order, and Michael, you're up.
Okay, I'll continue. I'm going to keep this short, just a few more minutes. There's many things I could say, so what I am going to tell you about is the time I lived in University Village. I was a grad student at UC Berkeley. I lived in University Village from 1995 to the year 2000. In Section B, that part of the village is gone now. When I was a grad student and the university first proposed tearing down the old parts of the village and redesigning it. We knew then, and this was about 1998, that the plan was going to be for a mixed-use project along the San Pablo frontage there, in the part of the village that was the older Cordonices housing project, which was built in between 1943 and 1944. So what you're seeing tonight is basically been in the works for over 15 years. I knew about it by 1997 or 1998. At the time, I was a single parent with a 3-year-old toddler. It was very difficult for me to go out and buy groceries because University Village, as it is now, is kind of an island. So if I needed to buy groceries, then I had to get in the car and drive somewhere, which had some climate change implications. And one of the things I really like about the rotation of the grocery store, and I'm glad that the developers did this, and this was a comment that P&Z Commissioner Eisenman made, is that by moving the retail from San Pablo to Monroe, Monroe runs east-west, that kind of creates a bridge between the island that University Village is and the rest of the community. And University Village, back when I lived there, really felt like an island. So none of this is new stuff. It's been going on for a long time. Now, there is an apparent misconception going on here, and I want to clear this up. We, as a body, the City Council of Albany, have almost no control over what happens on UC property. This is a common problem. This town gown problem is common everywhere. Basically, our zoning ordinances do not apply unless there is some sort of commercial development. So, for example, the portion of the Gill Tract that has always been agriculture remains agriculture, except, as Ed Fields pointed out to me, there's a little bit, and we can't get his photograph up, but the grocery store is going to intrude into what was conventionally the Gill Tract space. There's a fence line there where along the northern border of the old Cordonices housing area, which existed. You know, I was having dinner in one of those old buildings, probably that was about 2003 or 2004, so it hasn't been that long since they tore them down. So that land in all the plans, the 15 acres that is the conventional agricultural part of the Gill Tract, we have no control over. That land is in the control of the College of Natural Resources. So I find it ironic that given that land is controlled by the College of Natural Resources, which is part of UC Berkeley, and we have many idealistic young UC Berkeley students coming to us tonight saying, you should change what goes on that land, I'm like, dudes, you are talking to the wrong person. You should be out there trying to change what goes on that land. So if you're UC Berkeley, come on, quiet down. If you're, I use that word all the time. If you are, as UC Berkeley students, concerned about what goes on the core agricultural portions of the Gill Tract, and I think there are some interesting things going on there, and Dean Gillis can talk to you about them. You know, more power to you, but you're talking to the wrong people because we don't have any control over that. That is an internal UC Berkeley matter. So I'm sort of scratching my head going, I understand your enthusiasm, but we just don't have any control over that. Now, the part that is being developed, come on, quiet down, please. The part that is being developed was until 2003 or 2004 buildings. There have been buildings there since 1943. That is not prime agricultural land, as David Sanger, who's done a lot of research, has pointed out in his 60 seconds. And as I pointed out on my blog, there's no evidence that was ever farmland, except for perhaps before 1890. So we knew that that used to be housing. It's going to be housing again. I knew that in 1998. There's no surprises here. Okay, I'm almost done. Come on, hey, yo. You know, I didn't say anything. I sat here quietly for an hour while you all spoke. I would like you to reciprocate. Okay, let me see if I have any of the points. Oh, Ms. Rawlings, yes, about the nature of the soil of the Gill Tract. There's no point you and I playing he said, she said on this issue. UC Berkeley students, who is the chair currently of ESPM? Does anybody know his name? Yeah, he's a soil scientist, right?
Okay.
My suggestion is you go and talk to
You
him.
need to not speak.
And he can resolve this issue for you. And that's all I have to say.
I want to ask one more question about resolutions, I think 21 and 22. In the proposed resolutions, they were printed up before Monday night's meeting. So I'm assuming that our actions on Monday night will be included in the warehouses.
When the time comes, when the council's ready, I'm going to read to you what we would propose as an amendment to that.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I propose that we move on hearing the resolutions.
Yes.
So I'll go in numerical order, starting with Resolution 2014-21. This is the resolution of the Albany City Council denying the appeal by Albany Housing Advocates and Amber Whitson on the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The amendment that we're recommending is to the attachment, and this gets to that point exactly that was raised by the mayor and by Ms. Collins. And we would suggest that the summary of the attachment read as follows. The City Council adopted the housing element for the 2007-2014 planning period on March 3, 2014. Therefore, the assertion the city lacks a valid housing element is no longer germane. Revised findings to reflect the March 3, 2014 action are proposed. And then there would be a grammatical correction in the second to last paragraph on that page, which would change the sentence to read, the City Council adopted the housing element on March 3, 2014. And then finally, the final sentence on the second page of that attachment would be deleted. It reads now, no changes to the resolution, findings or conditions of approval are recommended, and that needs to be deleted because there will be changes.
Okay.
And there's similar language in the summary that Jeff just read that would also be deleted. So the summary he read would replace the summary that's on the document currently.
So for the next resolution, resolution number 2014-22.
Are we voting on these individually?
Can we put those two together? Or
You could, at the end, do this as one motion, or you could do this individually if you preferred.
I think we wanted to get through to have you understand all the amendments prior to any votes.
I think we ought to separate them. Let's do
too.
one at a time. So let's do 21.
Okay, I move approval of resolution 2014-21 as reviewed by Mr. Bond.
With the amendments to the attachment.
With the amendments to the attachment.
And before there's a second, I just to clarify, just so you understand the range of changes, which are not extensive. It'll only take us about 2 or 3 minutes to get through them. I would just recommend that you listen to what the changes are, and then you can vote individually in the order that you're proposing. But rather than vote right now on the first resolution, I would just suggest that Jeff finish giving you all the changes, so you just have those in mind as you then go through and vote on the various resolutions.
Okay, well, it sounds like that's a wiser direction, so fine, I'll hold off on that.
Thank you. So then on resolution 2014-22, there are two things being changed. There's on the 5th page of the resolution, we're adding a whereas clause that reads, attachment 2 responds to additional issues raised by the appellant after the appeal deadline and provides analysis and findings in response. And then on line 10 of that page, well, I'll read the whole sentence, starting on line 8 of page 5. Now,
Page are we on? Line 10 of which page?
Page 5 of resolution 22. And the sentence reads, we would recommend the sentence read that begins on line 8. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Albany denies the appeal based on the analyses and findings in attachment 1 and as supplemented by attachment 2. With respect to attachment 1 of that resolution, we would recommend the same changes that we made to the prior resolution, just to clarify that the housing element has been approved. So the summary statement and the deletion of the final sentence in the other items would be made exactly as described earlier. Moving along to Council Resolution 2014-25. On page 3, we're recommending the insertion of an additional whereas clause that should have been in there. It was a statement that was included in the Planning and Zoning Commission's action, and we just inadvertently left it out, that would read, and we would propose to put this on line 18 of page 3. It would read, whereas per the Planning and Zoning Commission action on December 11, 2013, the Commission specified that the property at 1080 Monroe shall remain as a park or open space and shall be maintained by the applicants to prevent accumulation of construction and or other debris, semicolon, and then it goes back to where it was. And that's to address the issue of if there is a timing issue between the development of the senior housing project and the strip along Monroe, that site be properly maintained.
But we'd heard earlier that that's going to be built simultaneously.
It sounds like that may not be an issue.
Now, my copy says December 11, 2014.
And that it should, right. That
2013?
also needs to be correct, that date, because the Commission took action on December 11, 2013.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And the final one is a quick one. It's on City Council Resolution 2014-28. It's in the title. The resolution the first line of the resolution should read, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Albany, comma, County of Alameda, and so forth. We inadvertently had not removed Planning Commission in the earlier draft. And with that, we don't have it, excuse me, and then Councilmember Moss had a suggestion for incorporating into the conditions of approval about the process for, sorry, I want to get to my notes on that, review of potential changes, and we would suggest that there be an addition at probably, we'll just put it at the end of the resolution just because it's easiest for us there, and to have a condition that reads, development, any deviation from plans approved by the City Council would have to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review.
That's your recommendation that we add that.
So that would be like an E, that would be another motion. You want that as a separate motion, or you want it as part of one of these?
What I would recommend is that you could reference what I just read to you in making a motion, and then you don't have to have a separate vote on that if that's what if that gets to what you mean.
Is there a risk of unnecessary delay by our adding that?
Frankly, I think it's a good idea. You know, we'll have a good working relationship with the applicants as they're going through the building permit process, and it just, you know, if it looks like there's going to be an issue, we'll plan ahead. So I wouldn't expect this to come up at the last minute, but it just gives us a little bit more leverage, because as Councilmember Moss mentioned, it does happen where things kind of budgets get tight, and we always are asked to waive the most, you know, some of the extra things, and sometimes those extra things are really important to the community. So we're comfortable with that recommendation.
Okay. I move approval then of Resolution 2014-22, Resolution 2014-25, and Resolution 2014-28 with the amendments and changes made by Mr. Bond.
Did you also want to include Resolution 2014-21?
Pardon me, yes, that should be the first one. Thanks for catching that.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Wild that we approve Resolutions 2014-21 denying the appeal of Albany Housing Advocates and Amber Whitson, and 2014-22 denying the appeal of Ed Fields and affirming the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission with modifications. And Resolution 2014-25 approving the tentative parcel map, and 2014-28 approving design review. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Council members, so I apologize for, what I would suggest is if you're going to approve, and it's totally fine for you to do this, to approve the resolutions all in one fell swoop, that you go ahead and include the other ones that were not amended. There's no reason to break those out, and just from an ordering standpoint, it makes sense to do them all at one time. So if you would like to amend your motion, and then have it reseconded.
Does someone want to list those?
You agree to that?
I would agree to that.
Okay, so then we will be adding Resolution 2014-23, which is amending the planned unit development for University Village Mixed-Use Development Project, 2014-24, approving tentative parcel map, 2014-26, approving the tentative parcel map, and 2014-27, approving design review applications, and 2014-29, approving design review applications. Is there further discussion on the part of the council? Oh, did I miss 20?
I think you missed
No, we
28.
did 25 in the
No, we had
beginning. It's one of those
Do
amended.
you have all this? Okay.
So can we have a new motion, or do we need a new motion that incorporates all of these?
That's what we're doing now. Okay, so the motion, as presented by Vice Mayor Weil and seconded by Councilmember Moss, is to approve resolutions 2014-21, 2014-22 with amendments, 2014-23, 2014-24, 2014-25 with amendments, 2014-26, 2014-27, 2014-28 with amendments, and 2014-29. Are there further,
And also
discussion?
I believe 2014-21 with amendments.
With amendments, okay, yes.
And including Councilmember Moss's suggestion.
Yes, that's included. All right, would you please poll the council?
Councilmember Atkinson?
Wait, I think we want to make sure we have a second on that.
Yes,
We
yes.
do.
We have a
I'm sorry, I
second.
missed that.
Pardon? He seconded.
We got
I
it.
second.
And he agreed to the changes.
Councilmember Atkinson?
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes?
Aye.
Councilmember Moss?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Weil?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Aye, and the motion carries unanimously. Okay, next order of business. Where are the agenda? Okay. Next order of business, please.
Other business reports on meeting attended, announcement of event and future agenda items.
Other meetings?
Is there any item? If not, the meeting is adjourned.